Sonic Boom Episode 27, Tommy Thunder Method Actor. We start out with the heroes being eager to see a muscular actor called Tommy that Knuckles is character shilling. Tails says he's cool for skiing, and Sonic cynically snarks that his action heroics are unrealistic, probably because he's not him, so he wouldn't have the special abilities that would make it plausible that he'd survive. Dave drops a toy based off Tommy, as I can't help but focus on the resemblance to the name of a different Tommy. It's weird to see that he's a cat Mobian and not a turtle. He gives a kid an autographed picture of himself, and he tells even the heroes that they could be a hero one day. And somehow, not only is Tails honored to be told that instead of snarking about it, he says that being called a hero means less coming from Sonic! What? Also, Sonic snarks about the actor that he's just acting. It turns out he had helped an old lady, but then Eggman threatens the heroes with his Eggmobile and explains that he wanted a baker's dozen, not 12. Knuckles tosses him a baguette, which he uses as a baseball bat to hit the robots. That's creative. Tommy saying his "even you could be a hero someday" line made me wonder if he was an android. So it's surprisingly human of him to acknowledge that Sonic was a hero by saying touche after Sonic threw his line back at him. He tells Tommy that he wouldn't be a good fit for a hero, and Tommy says at his house later that being a hero isn't about ego. Then he gives him some gifts in a basket, and somehow Sonic has to say slam, because the hero of the world doesn't have a door, and Tails didn't think to give one to his house. Then at night, Tommy leads the heroes into a restaurant with them being treated like VIPs. Somehow Tails is impressed by how clean the plates are. He's really easily impressed. I like how naive he is. Sonic complains that Tommy's phony, and so only an idiot would be impressed by him, insulting Amy. Amy keeps being the idealist and convinces him to stay with him so he could try to teach him what it's like to be a hero. Tommy annoys him with a million questions, like asking him about gazpacho. Somehow Tails thinks Sonic was talking about him when he says it's frustrating to be followed by someone annoying. Tails is an idiot in this story. Tommy annoys Sonic by imitating his frustration, and then an alarm goes off and immediately tells Tails that there's a robbery for them to stop. Wait, how? Do they have a direct line with the police? Shouldn't the police be handling it? Sonic tells Tommy to stay out of the way, and Amy uses her hammer on a conveniently there seesaw to send sticks up to bother a robber, and Tails gives Sonic a boost so he can stop another robber. I'm glad that's not just Eggman for a change. And Knuckles catches all of the stolen TVs. If he's really such an idiot, why doesn't he drop and break them? Sonic runs around the robbers and ties them up with rope he somehow has, like it's AOSCH. Tommy idiotically unties the robbers to give himself another chance to stop them, making me wonder if they'll get free. Fortunately, they don't, even as he wastes time talking as if he's learned about being a hero. As Sonic calls him out on, the freak who keeps speaking in the third person, Tommy, somehow thinks he stopped the thieves, and he brags about how he stopped them on TV, saying that he looked at them and said, "Not today." What makes him think he's so great? He brags that he could take on 1,000 Eggman. It was amusing to see Eggman in his pajamas snark that, "Well, there goes my evening, now I have to put on pants," because it made him relatable, aside from his awful pajamas. I don't know why this show's sense of humor is about being irritating instead of funny. Tommy tells the robots threatening him that what he said was all part of the show. He dodges some lasers, calls for his mommy, and immediately Sonic's here to save him, sadly. And he shows self-awareness and even says he has a fake name, naturally. Sonic uses his spin attack a lot, jumps on the robot's arm, and tricks it into chainsawing off its arm. That's creative. Then he uses the enter beam to tie up the robot's legs to make it fall over. That was quick. Why doesn't he do that to every robot with legs? And somehow, the news reporter immediately assumes it was Tommy who had an epic battle with Eggman, even though Sonic is right there. And somehow Sonic gives Tommy all the credit instead of letting him have satisfying karma for a proper ending. I was looking forward to seeing Tommy admit all sheepishly that he was being arrogant earlier. And yet we're supposed to be proud of Sonic, because Amy, the writer's mouthpiece, congratulates him on being mature enough to give a worthless civilian all the credit for his heroism. Sonic is not mature. That's not who he is. I said somehow a lot in this episode, and I think that's because a lot of the characters' reactions to things were just baffling. Tommy was an unbelievable idiot who makes Tommy Turtle look like a nice and harmless character. At least he wasn't an arrogant jackass celebrity who brags to everybody that he stopped some robbers when Sonic did. At least he didn't annoy Sonic by following him around, asking him too many questions at once, and imitating him. It would have been kinda cool if he had done some useful things in battle and actually learned how to be a hero, but no, that'd be too action-y. At least it was interesting to see Sonic fight using a baguette as a baseball bat, and it was characteristic of Amy to be the idealist about Tommy contrasting Sonic, but it wasn't characteristic of Sonic to be mature and give Tommy credit he doesn't deserve. When I saw him get threatened by those robots, I was looking forward to seeing him get a lot of slapstick to give the audience some catharsis. But no! Shockingly, Sonic is right there immediately to save him, and all he has to do is effortlessly dodge some lasers. How does anyone dodge any lasers when they move at the speed of light? It'd be nice if he at least got some of his fur burned off. I don't see how it's mature to make sure a guy doesn't learn his lesson and humor him. That's not what a good parent would do. You know, Adventures of Sonic had 10 minutes of Sonic getting hurt and or embarrassed combined. That's a lot of slapstick. I don't even remember Boom Sonic ever getting hit. I'm sure he did a couple times, but I doubt the show is gutsy and entertainingly cartoonish enough to have nearly enough slapstick against the heroes. I accuse Adventures Sonic of being an overpowered creator's pet, but at least he got a bunch of slapstick. This show barely does that. The heroes almost never get hit, making even Adventures of Sonic have more legitimate tension. And it's so bad that even annoying characters like Tommy Turtle don't get slapstick. What were they thinking? I knew this episode would be about an annoying original character the minute I saw the title. Episode 27-2, Spacemageddonapocalypse. I hate how stupid these titles can get. We start out with the show ripping off 2001 Space Odyssey with the music showing the planet, and then Orbot and Cubot go to work on a satellite. Orbot somehow gets flung away in space, but he's attached to a rope, so he somehow gets back to the satellite. Eggman plays Galaga and panics when he's told that a large asteroid is heading for the planet, and he says it's the end of the world. Well, blasting it with lasers would just cause a bunch of smaller asteroids to rain down on the planet, unless he used the laser good enough to completely incinerate it. That's what he would need. There's no way he wouldn't be able to make that. So he heads to an underground bunker, and the rations need to be restocked thanks to Cubot. So Cubot can eat? He ate the rations? He tells the villagers to come with him if they want to pay, as he wants to sell spots in his bunker. At least he was prepared, because he made a bunker before he needed one. The villagers laugh at his bad joke. Since none of them are realistically panicking, I guess they're assuming he's lying. Tails sees the asteroid through the telescope, and he tells the mayor that the asteroid should be deflected. Sonic lampshades that Tails should figure this out by himself, because our time is being wasted by these people. Eggman then tells the crowd that each of them need to write a one-page essay on why they deserve to be saved. That's pragmatic of him. And most of these guys lost my sympathy after the millionth time they turned on Sonic. So they kinda deserve this. Problem is, he's a jerk, so he wouldn't know to prioritize the nice people the most. Tails decides they need a lot of mirrors to save the world. As I wonder how Eggman is going to know whether the essay is lying to him. Why does a world being threatened feel so anticlimactic, boring, and underwhelming? I feel like in any other show this would be a lot more exciting. Tails uses solar panels to fire a yellow laser, but it gets deflected somehow? And Tails says there's too much space between them and the meteor, somehow. So he can't simply hit it from here, because then the episode would be too short and it'd be too easy, when realistically that'd be the end of it. This is Tails we're talking about, he's not this incompetent. How could he ever be so lame that he'd only be able to shoot it from space, and only with Eggman's help? Tails says that Eggman wants the asteroid to hit, but we see him send people away to their... Eggman's told he has to follow parking regulations, even in a jungle, so a cop uses a bike to wheel away his rocket, as Eggman just stands there helplessly. You'd think he'd carry a ray gun. Archie Robotnik could blast lasers out of his glove. Tails tells Sonic that Knuckles needs to go instead because he's strong enough to do it, and Sonic complains because how often does he get to save the world? He's Boom Sonic. The heroes try to talk Sonic out of it briefly, and Tails says that he'll have to activate the solar convergence device. And our time is wasted because he's confused about him using an acronym 3 times. He was smart enough to write down the instructions for Knuckles ahead of time. We see him walking out of a cabin in slow motion wearing a spacesuit. This is so horribly boring. I'm guessing he really is walking slowly for dramatic effect. And he was, as Amy lampshades that logically he should hurry. I mean, this is a parody. So then why did the writer write this if he knew it was illogical? It wasn't funny. The show is so obsessed with being a parody. Knuckles says the instructions are too complicated, so he'll have to wing it. And we hear cats for some reason. He presses a button a lot, and some glass shatters because of him. He says the asteroid's still heading for the planet, and he's all alone in space. Why was he ever trusted? How'd he fuck up when he had instructions? Then Hal is literally ripped off because he tells Knuckles he can't let him do that. As if we need pop culture references in Sonic. So Knuckles escapes the space station, which is on the asteroid, and he punches it, which causes the entire asteroid to break apart. Good showing of his super strength for once. Then he ends up losing the ground beneath him and floating, and he lands on a satellite panicking. I don't think any other Knuckles panics as much as him. He's the most cowardly Knuckles ever. They're trying way too hard to make him comedic, and it sucks because they're always failing so horribly. Knuckles has never worked as the idiot character. He was never meant to be like that in the classic era. That's why he was clever enough to make traps for Sonic successfully. Reality ensues as Tails tells Knuckles that all of the smashed asteroid pieces are going to rain down on them. But then Sonic uses Amy's hammer to hit them all back like he's playing baseball. That was cool. And somehow Styx says Knuckles was clearly on a soundstage when she had to know he was on an asteroid. Why do they have to reference the idiotic, disproven conspiracy theory that the moon landing was faked? Why do the heroes keep this completely delusional lunatic around? If it's because they feel sorry for her, realistically they all would have kicked her out of the team because they feel sorry for her every time she says anything, so she's a constant downer. I love when she does do things that are useful, especially when they're unique of her instead of her just fighting badniks, which any of them can do. But she doesn't have enough of those moments. I thought I'd find her funny, but her conspiracy theories are so impossibly unbelievable that I'm just confused that she'd ever believe them. There's no realistic foundation for the joke to happen on. So I'm just wondering why this poor girl is being used as a constant joke spouter and nothing else, when the idea of a joke is making her be confusingly delusional, and either ignored by the heroes, or otherwise not get the help she needs. It's sad when it seems like the comic wrote her much better than this. She didn't just say delusional things and call it a day. She also heard voices from a rock, and threw it, and it ricocheted all over the place to beat a mecha. And she was the one who located the mecha's giant footprint so the heroes could find it and retrieve Tails' house. I'm shocked at how useless she's been all of these episodes. It's to the point where I actually made a list of all her competent and great moments, because I need some way to keep them in my head and keep track of them. Because otherwise, I'll literally forget all of them. What's the point of having her around if there's so little focus on how great she is? It's not believable that all these characters would keep her around if she's so unbelievably out of touch with reality most of the time. You'd think she'd just be seen as a liability, and it'd be irresponsible to put her in danger. I'm familiar with a different conspiracy theorist character called Miles from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I didn't have nearly as much of a problem with him, because his conspiracy theories were all real ones from real life that plenty of people actually believe in. So he's not a completely unbelievable and ridiculous character that obviously literally has schizophrenia. There's a big difference between Miles and Styx. And Styx isn't like that because that'd be too realistic. So they just make her a parody because everything has to be a parody. Anyways, this episode was about the generic doomsday plot that an asteroid's about to crash into the planet. So instead of the simple solution happening where laser completely vaporizes it, enveloping it completely in red light, somehow Tails is too lame to achieve that, even though no amount of distance should be too much for a laser, which literally travels at light speed. Apparently his laser got deflected by something because he missed, but why can't he just keep firing? How did he manage to miss? Can't he just build a tractor beam to hold the asteroid in place? He made a force field generator. Of course, this is all ignoring the ridiculousness of the fact that Tails had the time to make this laser producer in the first place after he just spotted the asteroid heading for Mobius. I was gonna say the Earth, but there's no humans here, so only an idiot wouldn't call it Mobius. I do love the idea that Eggman wants to take advantage of the situation by getting people to buy spots in his bunker. And of course, because he's the one in charge, he only lets the people who he thinks are worthy get saved. It makes sense that an evil genius would be pragmatic. and he only has so many spots in his bunker. It was also refreshing that Knuckles got to save the world instead of Sonic, even if he did make a fool out of himself by somehow screwing up when he had clear instructions. It was cool that he got to use his super strength in such an obvious way, the most obvious he ever had in the series. And when reality ensues because the pieces of the asteroid rain down, Sonic uses Amy's hammer to hit all them back. Good thing he's great at baseball and never misses a swing. That was really convenient. Only Sonic Boom could take a plot like the world's gonna be destroyed and make it so underwhelming and boring. It felt like it took forever. When Danny Phantom did this, it worked a lot better. I think the problem was that nobody was scared. People didn't even believe Eggman at first. Although it is natural for people to go into denial. And when they did believe him, they just calmly tried to get spots in his bunker. And when he said some of them were doomed to die, they just acted annoyed and walked away grumbling. How stupid do they think we are? It's not like everybody has faith that they'll be fine, because why did they waste money on spots in Eggman's bunker then? Also, you think it'd be against the law to make them pay for that. And it'd be fine if the mayor or police just explained that he's scared of retaliation from Eggman's machines if he enforced the law. But the problem is that we clearly see a cop tow away Eggman's invention for breaking parking violations, even though it's in the middle of a jungle. So he was clearly taking any excuse he could to bother him. And yet we don't see Eggman harass him later as actual consequences. So if this cop has the courage to not let him get away with everything, then the whole system falls apart. How is he not arrested and put in prison? It can't be legal to be doing anything he's doing, especially in this episode. And how stupid would they have to think we are to expect us to believe that everyone is oblivious to Eggman's evil? So maybe the reason this Doomsday plot was so underwhelming and mundane feeling was that, well, one, the asteroid was discovered at the start of the episode, so it felt like it was taking forever, moving at the speed of molasses. But two, there's not enough consequences to a potential Doomsday scenario. There's no mass hysteria. Everyone's completely calm. We're not seeing more than one town panicking about this, like in SE2. It's worse than Sonic Unleashed. It's not being taken seriously. Why is this show so restrained? How is the world could get destroyed not being taken seriously? That's such a common goal for villains in video games, right next to they want to rule the world. And it's taken seriously there. Maybe the problem is that in spite of the tense premise for a story, where the heroes are trying to accomplish their most significant act of heroism, the pacing is so slow. There's so much focus on the characters talking. We had an overly long, unfunny gag where Knuckles somehow misunderstood Tails when he used an acronym for his device, specifically because the real name was too long. How does that not immediately get cut in the editing? Because it's there for padding, that's why. When it's obviously only there for artificially lengthening the story, it goes from boring to frustrating because it's not a harmless joke anymore. It's actively hurting the experience. Nothing's changed since Sonic X. Both times, the pacing is too slow and there isn't enough action. You'd think it would have improved since Sonic X. Most of the unfunny jokes aren't awful when they fall flat, but overly long gags are a special kind of evil when they're not funny to begin with. In Sonic Adventure 2, the sense of stakes for the Doomsday plot was conveyed a lot better. We had countdown text show up before the cutscene to tell us how close they were getting to Eggman firing. And when Gerald told the world about his plan, we saw the reactions of civilians from all sorts of different countries in the world, from France to Arabia. And they were a lot more scared. And we saw them all relieved and celebrating when the world was saved. This show is so low budget and lazy that it'll take any excuse to not show villagers from other parts of the world. A video game made in 2001 still managed to do this 1,000,000 times better than a fully fledged official TV show. What makes it any more obvious how far we've fallen since that game? This right here is why the show's tone sucks. Why is he snarking boredly at an apocalyptic scenario? This bores him? Really?